Welcome to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Circle, the leading employee benefits and engagement platform.
As the situation of the COVID-19 pandemic has been very complicated and unpredictable, many problems still have to be met by HR leaders and managers. The best way to solve this scenario with minimum loss is to keep up with the latest trends. Therefore, in today's episode, we'll be talking about the emerging HR trends post-COVID-19 pandemic. Hi everyone, this is Sushmita from Vantage HR Influencers Podcast, and for the same we have with us today guest speaker Kriti Shukla. Kriti has over 4.5 years of work experience in HR, especially in talent management processes like talent engagement, performance management, recruitment, and rewards and recognition. Currently, Kriti is working as an employee experience specialist with a leading multinational IT services company. In her role, she strives to be aligned with every priorities of her organization, keeping employee experience at the center, and she believes that a great employee experience is of extreme importance, especially in the new normal of the post-COVID era. Welcome to the show, Kriti.
Hi, Susmita. Thank you so much.
Okay, so before we start with the topic, please let us know a brief about your journey in the corporate world.
So, my journey started in the corporate world in the year 2016 after completing MBA in HR and IT management from SDM Institute, Mysore. So, I started off as a talent fulfillment specialist where I was involved in staffing for critical roles and workforce planning. I then took up the role of HR generalist for a key banking customer. I did that role for a year, and then I moved to my current role of employee experience specialist. So the journey so far has been quite fulfilling and enriching, and I believe this is just the start, and definitely there's a lot more for me to learn in the years to come.
Okay, right. So we can start with our topic today, that is emerging HR trends post-COVID-19 pandemic. So, Kriti, over the last 5 years, technology has accelerated the digital HR revolution and has begun to build a new age in which people have more influence on how they work, what a better work-home balance entails, and preferring to pick passion-driven projects and becoming path breakers. Just as things began falling into place, COVID-19 hit and started to interrupt human life, behavior, businesses, and the global economy. In the case of HR, we don't really know if we could ever go back to the pre-COVID reality, as in this particular sector in the organization, it has faced the most critical phase during the crisis. So how do you believe COVID-19 has affected HR?
Undoubtedly, this year has been the most challenging and difficult year for all of us, and also for the organizations across industries. More so for the HR to tackle never seen before issues pertaining to employee health, safety, and well-being, and also areas like engagement and work-life balance. So when the pandemic hit us during the early months of 2020, we as HR professionals were in the front line, communicating with the employees, addressing their concerns, queries, and apprehensions, and we still continue to do that. In my opinion, during this crisis, HR has seen itself transitioning from being an enabler and support system to being at the center of the BCM strategy. Sudden shift in the work culture with the remote workforce has brought about a 180-degree change in how we are approaching people issues and handling their concerns. And also, I believe that these are the demands that have brought about a 180-degree change in the way we approach employee engagement and employee satisfaction.
Right.
Nurturing culture in a dispersed work environment, relooking at compensation structures, medical facilities and insurance, and also bringing focus on mental and emotional well-being. All these demands are the ones that HR has to cater to, and there are many more such demands that will come up in the future.
Right. So with a huge change in our systems of behavior conduct and the digital way of becoming, work in the work life, it is important that we evolve and change the way we all work. And as you rightly pointed out, HR needs to emerge as a navigator in such an environment, helping to maintain a balance between the organization and the needs of individuals. So according to you, what are the key trends that will shape HR in 2021?
So, I'd like to talk about the 4 key trends that I believe will shape the future of HR in the years to come. The first one being remote working. As you know that all of us and majority of the workforce across industries is working from home, and there is a lot of uncertainty related to when we are going to return to office. This brings out a need for organizations across industries to invest in digitization and also in collaboration tools. Digital, as we call it, is here to stay, and we're already seeing years worth of digital transformation coming forward in months. So I believe that remote working is here to stay, and this will play a crucial role in how HR paves its way in the post-COVID era.
Right.
The second key trend that I believe is data-driven HR. So HR will have to change the approach towards people management. We only used to talk about or were in the early stages of adopting data-driven decisions, while now we have to rely on reports and data that shows us key indicators to focus on. How do we measure productivity? How many hours are the employees working and how are they feeling? In the new workplace that is home, how do we measure performance in a remote work environment? So we will have to leverage data analytics and AI to create tailored interventions around these areas, and this is going to be the way forward.
Right. Okay.
The third key trend that is coming up and is widely being adopted already is gig workforce. So workforce models are evolving post-COVID. Gig economy is picking up.
Right.
With fluid and dispersed workforce and ever-increasing demand for niche skills, flexibility to work from anywhere, and not being confined to office spaces. Organizations are embracing gig economy to meet the demands of cost saving and having a high-performing and flexible workforce. So this is not necessarily applicable to new hires or external hiring, but also companies are trying to bring this culture up within their organizations as well.
Right.
Finally, the fourth key trend that I feel will play an important role is where there'll be more focus on employee safety, well-being, and resilience. So we may be used to working from home, managing kids, and switching from online classes to online meetings, and also simultaneously managing our daily chores. But it doesn't mean the stress is any less. This is bound to continue, and so the organizations will have to adopt a people-first culture and make employee safety and holistic well-being a priority.
Right.
So it is not just about organizations coming up with well-being activities and sessions for their employees, but also about how we bring that change of taking care. It has to become a cultural change across organizations where they focus on taking care of employees. Flexible work routines and leadership with empathy will create a lot of difference in strengthening employee trust in the organization. So I believe these are the key trends that will shape the future of HR in the years to come.
Right. So, Kriti, that being said, how can these trends that you mentioned be used effectively to speed up the situation and get work-life back on track?
Life will be back on track, but it will not be the same. And like we have been experiencing changes in our work, life, and also in the surroundings around us, employee expectations from the organizations will also be drastically different. We will have to look at hybrid workplace models where daily catch-up calls and meetings will have a different face. We will have to cater to both office and work from home environment. While some people may be coming back to office, some teams may not even come back and may continue working from home.
Right.
So how do we understand what needs to be prioritized? And that is where the power of data will come into picture. Data will tell us what needs to be prioritized and what is it that the workforce wants. Also, talking about the landscape of talent acquisition, how it is changing. So, how the companies are hiring, there is a shift in the way they are looking at hiring. So, there's a shift from individual roles to organization-wide skills. They may want to look at what skill a new hire is getting into the organization rather than the kind of role he will be playing. Because they would want to scale up their workforce so that they are able to take up roles through their skills and they are able to scale up to the upcoming demands.
Right.
So HR will have to facilitate this shift by addressing employee aspirations and making sure that the organization paves the way for them to achieve them. Companies are also preferring scalable work models with a flexible workforce. And hence, organizations will have to develop resilience among employees and train managers to spot burnout. So in short, we will have to embrace risk and change, and that's how we'll be able to meet the ever-evolving expectations of the workforce.
Right. So all these things, will also, that is, the whole workplace experience is going to change, right? In this emerging, change that is going to
Right.
come after we join back or we continue working from home. So for that different workplace experience, employee engagement is also going to play a very important role. So how can employee engagement activities be maintained? Yeah.
I would like to answer this question rather differently.
Hmm.
So instead of talking about employee engagement activities, I would like to talk about the drivers that will play a pivotal role in enabling engagement at workplace. So I'd like to talk about three key drivers, the first of them being communication. So as much as it is important to hear from the employees about how they feel and what they want, equally important is to have transparent communication from top to bottom. We have been doing annual surveys and polls to get employee feedback over the years. But now the demand is to have more frequent connects between the leadership and the employees. They have to leverage leadership forums where they are coming together and communicating transparently. Supervisor check-ins are important. They need to ask their employees and their teams, how are you doing today? Are you in trouble? Is there any problem that you're facing? The second key driver will be growth and development.
Right.
The current scenario demands for a holistic performance management process that is more regular and continuous. So having continuous feedback in place, cross-functional trainings to be available for the employees to take up agile roles, and also giving them opportunity to perform outside their work will instill belonging in the workforce.
Right.
Also, understanding employee aspirations, what is it that they want to do, what is the next role that they want to take, and providing learning opportunities to them pertaining to their aspirations will enhance employee experience. At the same time, while we are doing these things, it is also important for organizations to remind them about what's not changing as well. The third key driver that I would like to talk about is flexibility. So flexibility around work hours and productivity. So we are in a time where we need to think and act with empathy. It is for the managers and leadership to know that if someone from their team is not performing, it can be due to various non-work related reasons, and that's okay. But what matters is whether we are trying to understand what the problem is.
Right. So it goes the other way around also, right, Kriti? Because employees too need to be flexible a bit during this crisis, right? To meet up to the needs of the
Definitely.
organization. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So as an employee experience specialist, what measures do you suggest to our people who are listening to us now? And most importantly, to those who are working so hard to rebuild workplace experience over this pandemic?
Employee experience is usually explained as a sum total of all interactions that happen between employee and the employer at all touch points during the life cycle. Organizations need to look at it from the lens of employees and what they want. While this is true, it is also important for the employees to also understand what are the expectations from them in this scenario of post-COVID.
Right.
Approaches like design thinking and employee journey maps are being used by future forward organizations, keeping employee at the center and understanding the key pain areas. So employee experience is not just an HR strategy, but business strategy as well, which requires key stakeholders from all across the organization to identify concern areas and work towards improving it. So this is not an easy task. It requires help of data analytics, and deep diving into sentiment data, AI, and most importantly, a mindset to adopt these technologies. So, as we say, we all have to start somewhere. This is where we should be starting, if not already.
Right. So, how does the future of work looks like to you?
In my opinion, future of work is different for every organization, depending on when they are planning to return or not return at all. There would be a sea change in the way employees and organization will perceive the workplace. Many organizations are planning to restaff their offices, while others have declared permanent or extended work from home options. Looking at coming back, companies will require employees to wear masks at all times, redesign their office spaces to ensure social distancing, and restrict movement in office premises. So, if someone is not wearing a mask or not following social distancing, in what category of non-compliance does it fall?
Right.
So, organizations have to be ready with what their approach will be towards discipline management. And
They
this is going to be
definitely
very
need
different.
some new rules and regulations in the workplace right now.
Right. And this will be very different and it will be more challenging as well. As we are progressing through the pandemic and we are experiencing various phases of the pandemic, our mindsets are also changing and evolving. All these changes will impact the future workplace dynamics.
Right. So, as you already said, that companies are doing their best to protect their workers during the pandemic, and with a greater emphasis on personal productivity, well-being, and personal resilience. For most of us, working from home is working wonderfully, and there's a huge growth in learning as well. So, as a lesson learned for companies, what would be your conclusion regarding this crisis?
The last 10 months have drastically changed the way we look at our work, life, safety, and health. It has also changed the way employees look at their company, and it has gone beyond compensation, benefits, and work culture. It is now more to do with the trust that they have in the organization and its leadership. COVID crisis has been an acid test for all the industries in terms of how they adapt to unprecedented changes. And this has played a crucial role in re-establishing employee trust in the organization, the feeling that their company can protect them. So organizations will have to now build on this trust. And this can be done only if employee experience goes hand in hand with business strategy. Unlike earlier, they cannot exist in silos. A positive employee experience will lead to enhanced customer experience. So I think that is where the key lies.
Okay. So, any HR leader whom we follow?
Yeah, so I really admire Miss Leena Nair, who is the CHRO of Unilever. She is the first female and youngest ever CHRO of Unilever, and as an HR leader, she inspires me greatly. The passion that she brings to HR is truly commendable. And I really like what she said once when she was asked what perception about HR she would like to change. And her answer was HR is always filling the cracks for the business and not laying the road. And I can totally relate to this answer because we as HR professionals, we've always been facing certain challenges and we've been striving to keep up with the changing business requirements. Yeah, so I think that is something that I really admire about Ms. Leena.
Okay, great. So, lastly, how can our listeners reach out to you?
I have an active LinkedIn account, and anyone who wishes to reach out can please feel free to contact me over there.
Okay, that was a great conversation with you, Kriti. Thanks a lot for joining me.
Thank you, Susmita, and I'd like to thank the team at Vantage Circle as well to have invited me and to give me this opportunity to interact with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast, where we engage with HR influencers about human resources. Please do subscribe to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for new episodes.